Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this one-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays, a podcast for what's going on in the Tri-County, South Florida area, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. What are we talking about today? We're talking about how maybe the Southside real estate industry could have got it wrong. What am I talking about? Well, there's something called a vintage condo. Those condos that are 30 years older, the ones that are under greater scrutiny because of the Surfside condo collapse nearly 5 years ago, back in June of 2021. And you know what the industry's been saying? They've been saying the old condos, they don't represent a lot of the market. We ran the numbers. We pulled them from the state of Florida. And you know what we found? 67% of the market is comprised of units at least 30 years old, which contradicts everything the Southside industry has been talking about. They've been talking about how the older units are just a little carve out. Turns out they got it completely wrong. All of those units that the industry is talking about, they represent 33% of the market. The real market is the vintage, the old stuff, not the newer stuff. So as we kind of look at the game, as we look at the strategy, makes you wonder about a lot of things. We're going to share all that information. And when I say we're, who am I talking about? Well, I'm Peter Zaleski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my partner, my co-host, the broker owner of CVR Realty. Check out our website, CVRRealty.com. No one else but Jenny Huertas. Jenny, what's going on?
Hey, Peter, happy Monday. I'm so excited about talking about vintage today.
Jenny, you know, the initiative for the summer is to build out the Condo Ratings Agency, something that we first talked about going all the way back to 2009, 2010. We registered a URL called Condo Ratings Agency. We went for it. We got some legal opinions at the time. They said that we might be interfering with commerce, so we kind of put it on hold. New construction took off. We set up crane spotters, and here we are now. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of that Surfside condo collapse. Nearly 100 people died. A $1 billion settlement paid out to the families of victims. And Jenny, you know what people want? People want what we wanted back 15 years ago when we said we ought to be able to rate condo associations based on economic feasibility, economic stability, economic viability. And we've begun the process of building it out, Jenny. We're pulling numbers from the state. We're pulling numbers from across the board, and we're starting to process the numbers, Jen. And like I said, 67% of South Florida condos, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, are at least 30 years older. That means these condos are under the milestone inspection, under the new regime. Remember, everybody, every 10 years, you got to do a structural integrity reserve study now because of legislation passed after Surfside. At year 30, you get hit with a milestone inspection, which is a big inspection. It typically leads to big special assessments. We ballpark the special assessments as up to 4 stories, 25 grand. 5 to 14 stories, 65 grand. If you're 15 stories or higher, that's $100,000 on the board you were on the hook for if you were a seller. Now, if you're a buyer, why would you possibly take a look at any of these condos? Jenny, you want to answer why these people are increasingly going after vintage condos, 30 years old or older, a term that we coined 2 years ago? You want to fill it in? Why would somebody want a vintage condo if Surfside collapsed? Are these things safe? Are they not safe? Who's to say, Jenny? Give us some details.
One word, affordability.
But safety.
That's number one.
But safety's got to be first.
True, but because we have now the mandatory report now comes to the affordability because those are a given. They had to be done, they had to be paid, and they had to be planned for the future. So at the end of the day, people goes for the price. Because, I mean, to be honest with you, if you have something that is a same price, one is new and one is old, I'm gonna go for the new,
Yes, of course.
right? So yes, that's definitely pricing is the main reason. Of course, with all these reports that were part of this, you know, thinking into this retrospective, if we hadn't had be able to do that, the condo ratings before, who knows? Maybe it would be avoiding a tragedy like that would be avoided.
Yes.
And that's exactly what is happening now.
That's exactly what's happening now. And Jenny's laying it out. I mean, listen, here's what it comes down to. When you go and you buy a used car, they call it a pre-owned car now. Typically it gets certified as to what's going on. The dealership will fix it. They'll do whatever. You kind of at least got an idea of what's happening. What then happens after the fact? Well, what happens after the fact is you go in there knowing. Same thing is kind of going on with condo associations, licensed architects, licensed engineers. They're coming in. They're checking it all out. They're signing off on a report. They're turning it over to the numbers people. Numbers people are coming out with a dollar amount based on what the experts found, giving up to the condo board. And the condo board now, as of 2026, they have to start to fund this. They either have to hit everybody with special assessment and or they got to take out a loan. The problem with a loan is private money is very expensive. It's 9, 10, 11% interest rate. So increasingly, condo owners, they got a year to pay this or they could face foreclosure. Now, once the deal or once the problems and the repairs are being dealt with, you as a buyer coming in, you might be able to sidestep it all, have the seller on the way out cover those costs, and you might be able to step into a situation where what? It's got a better location because it was built 30 years ago. There were more choices. And what else? More square footage if you're an end user. Today, a one bedroom is 700, 750 square feet. A two bed's going to be 1,000. Back then, one bedroom, 1,200 square feet. A two bedroom, 2,000 square feet. So it's obvious, 37% price difference on the asking if you go after a vintage versus the overall market. And you got more space in a better location, and there's somebody signing off on it. That's what's driving buyers increasingly towards vintage and increasingly away from the regular product, which doesn't necessarily, it's not making all the sense in the world, Jen. That's what the numbers are showing, at least in the winter buying season of November of 2025 through April of 2026. That's where we saw the big bump was on vintage condo purchases, not the overall, not the, let's call them conventional condos.
Right. The other thing is that the new condos come along with the high price for the maintenance fees. Some of the older condos, although they have a special assessments and all the price of the maintenance fee is usually low.
Okay.
That's the only reason why, because you're always going to be worried about the carrying cost. When you're either you're an investor or the end user, you always want to know how much is your price per month. That is the more important thing. I mean, I'm talking about for savvy buyers, people in the budget, normal investors. Now we're talking about, people that are chasing trophy properties.
Yes.
That's not the product. I mean, there's product for everybody, but fortunately enough, we have a inventory from super luxury to lower end pricing. Doesn't mean that you don't take a risk. You may take a risk because something may happen in the building, but it doesn't. The fact that you buy brand new doesn't mean that you're off the hook neither. Just watch what happens in Aston Martin. Unfortunately, it's a brand new building. Other buildings are less than 10-year-old buildings that there were mistakes in the construction, and it's new, but it doesn't guarantee you like you're not gonna have to worry about it.
So Jenny, everybody wants vintage, and what we did is in order to build out the Condo Ratings Agency, which will be available, access will be given to the club members. And by the way, if anybody's interested in you, if you're a DIY do it yourself, you want to go out there and look for a condo. If you're looking for information, consider joining the club. Maybe you're a buyer working with a broker, buy-side broker. Join the club. You can never know too much. If you're on the listing side, can't sell a property, join the club. Maybe we can help you figure out what the problem is. If you are a lender and you want to know what's going on in the marketplace, join the club. If you're a regulator, you want to know what's going on the street, join the club. And if you're a gadfly because you want something to talk about, or you're just curious about the condo market, join the club. Miami Condo Investing Club. You can get it at miamicondo.club. What we do is we've launched it 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago already. We do a monthly meeting. I have a second Wednesday of every month. Tell everybody where are we, where were we, where are we going? And we also are doing these podcasts. You guys are watching this podcast for free. It's 4:00 And weekdays, 4 o'clock, we do a live stream. After the fact, we edit it. We then make it available on demand. When we make it available on demand, we put up a paywall. And because of that paywall, you got to be a club member in order to gain access. We're giving you real-time information every single workday at 5 o'clock as to what's going on in the condo market. So I'd encourage you all to sort of check it out. And I know other people are checking out because we now have to increase the opacity, which is like a crazy term, of watermarks that we have on our data because Wall Street's taking our data, they're scraping it, they're putting it in for what? To go out there and raise capital and go ahead and take advantage of where this market's going. So we got some great information. The right people sort of pay attention to us, but we're available to everybody. So if you are a one-off person, you're a DIYer, you're anybody else, consider joining the club. Great information. I'm a former journalist. Did that for 13 years, or then after that, I wrote a column for the Miami Herald, the Miami Real Deal, while I was brokering, while I was on the buy side, going after distressed condos during the Great Recession. Jenny's been by my side for the entire time, and as a result, she knows the business. I know the business. I tend to be a little bit more blunt than she is. She's in the field working with the agents. I'm the one sort of looking at the big picture numbers. So if you guys are looking for that type of straight talk, I'm not going to give you Chamber of Commerce, not going to be sell-side hyperbole, but you want to really know what's going on, consider joining the club, miamicondo.club. And if you're looking for a condo to buy, Jenny, she knows it, especially on the buy side. Check out her website, cvrrealty.com. Jenny, you ready to sort of share some charts? We're going to show people exactly what's going on, how it's working out, all of the above?
Yes, let's
All
do
right.
it. I can't wait to see all those numbers.
All right. Jen, here we go. We're gonna pull up some charts, and because you guys are watching this live, you're gonna be able to take it all in all its glory. And on demand, this will be behind a paywall. In order to get access to the paywall, join the club, miamicondo.club. So here we go, Jen. We're taking a look at the big picture numbers. This has nothing to do with pricing. This only has to do with available inventory. So, and I should tell you, all of the data comes from the state of Florida. We pulled this all from Florida records. So here we go. Let's go ahead and share this.